Hey, folks, you're listening to For the Love of Creatives podcast. I'm Maddox.
And I'm Dwight. We're the Connections and Community guys. And today we are joined by our featured guest, Teevee Aguirre.
Yes. Welcome, TV.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I've been really excited about this. Just so everybody knows, TV and I have been knowing each other somewhere upwards of 15 years. We met in a networking group that I was leading at the time and became fast friends. And over the years, our friendship has deepened and grown. I've watched his children grow up. I cut their hair for several years when they were children.
You were their
I
first
am
stylist.
I am deeply in love with his fiance, and I'll say that out loud. She's amazing. But yeah, we have over the years have had some amazing conversations, and yet I still believe today I will likely learn some things about you that I do not know, and that's exciting to me.
That's fairly accurate. Depending on what you ask me, I'm an open book. So rock and roll. Let's share. Crack me open.
Well, let's start off with why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself, just an overview, a brief, who you are, what you do, what you're about, and then we'll get into the big story.
I pride myself on being a father for first and foremost. Father to two little girls. Scratch that. Adult girls. Father. I run a marketing agency that I started in an effort to be closer to them and be involved in their life. I've been a lifelong artist, creative. Been doing creative work since I can remember, since before I could even read or write. And it's something that I'm deeply passionate about and have ingrained into every aspect of my life, including my parenting.
And I will say, I have watched him parent these girls I met them when they were 6 and 7, and they're full adults now. And he is truly an amazing father. And somewhere along here, he's probably going to talk about his podcast, which is mostly about parenting skills. So we'll put it in the show notes, and you got to check it out if you're a parent because he's I mean, I've known a lot of people in my life. I've been on the planet for a while, and he's possibly one of the best parents I've ever known. And there's
Oh,
a lot out there that are good, but you have skills as a parent that are, well, you put an insane amount of it in a like intention into the subtle nuances of parenting your girls, and they have turned out to be amazing young women.
thank you very much. It's something I do take a great deal of pride in. I am intentional because of my own personal journey, my own upbringing. So I make every effort to make sure that my my lessons can be conveyed upon them and that they stick. So yeah, words like yours, I've heard this before, and I truly appreciate them. I appreciate the kind words, and I'm grateful to have such great little human beings as my children.
Yeah, they are truly amazing. And, those words are words of truth. I've never been one to butter you up. Those words are words of truth.
Thank you.
So I think I want to start off with, and you're the first person that I've asked this question. So here we go.
Okay.
Um, what is creativity to you? I mean, what is this thing
Mm.
that we call creativity?
Hmm. That is a good question. Creativity to me is the ability to think differently, to act differently, to put together random ingredients. Cooks can be creative in the kitchen. Carla's really great at this. She'll put together dishes based on things that are available. Like whatever's there, she can concoct something. It's the idea of just doing things differently or doing things the same, but creating something out of ingredients that are all around her, us.
Beautiful. And this may be a little more um, existential, if that's the right word. I'm using a big word that I'm not sure the meaning of it, but there we go.
Mhm.
Um, where do you think creativity comes from?
Mm. I think it comes from this place of, I think humans by nature are creative individuals. We have been creating and building since the beginning of time. There's paintings on walls that demonstrate that. And we're building tools, we're being creative. So I think it comes from this place of wanting to create something to solve problems or to tell our story. So I think it's innate to the human experience. So that's why I feel like almost anyone is a creative, because it's just a part of us. Some of us shove that down early on in childhood because we're told we're not creative, we can't draw even stick figures. But the truth is, we're all creative. We're creating, life is an improvisation, it's a creative experience, and we're creating through our conversations. But depending on how we live it, we tend to have mundane, boring conversations as well. But I think it's just a part of the human experience.
But the creative energy, the ideas, where did they come from?
Hmm. I That's just going to vary person to person, I believe. For me, most of it, just in excuse me, just in the context of artistic creativity, comes from this desire to tell a story, to share an experience. Right now I'm in the middle of creating a bunch of new artistic pieces, sketches with lessons and whatnot, and I'm pulling from different experiences in my life because I want to tell this story. And then they're actual sketches. And in other instances, I want to tell the story through more of a auditory mode with my podcast. So I'm sitting down and I'm recording those, but it's this desire to say, hey, I have something happened to me. Let me tell you about it. For some people, it's a painting. For others, it's mosaics. It just varies person to person.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing now.
Mm.
What's on your plate? What are you excited about? What are you working on? And how did you come to work on that? What brought that to you?
Well, right now, I have a lot of creative endeavors. It's something that I'm just really passionate about. There was a lull in my life, especially during marriage and then divorce and whatnot, where I was not. But right now, I feel like I'm circling back around and finding my artistic identity and really rekindling that childhood desire and passion around it. I'm working on sketches, illustrations, comic. I'm working on a comic strip. I actually have my first strip of sorts that I'll be publishing maybe this week. But it's just illustrations that tell a story, as I mentioned earlier. I have about 4 or 5 queued up. One of my goals right now is to have a bunch done, ready to go, so that way I can be kind of consistent, because the internet thing. And I also have the podcast. The podcast for me is a creative endeavor because I do like talking and sharing. And I've been going up and down trying to test the medium and how I want to share it. And right now, I think I've settled in on primarily sharing stories and lessons in one-off kind of podcast where I share one lesson, one story. And it allows me to talk because essentially I'm here by myself for the most part if my girlfriend isn't here, and I'm able to share those stories. So that, like the video editing, the setup, everything about it has been something that's been a little overwhelming to get back into, but at the same time, it's something that I'm truly compelled to do, and I feel a calling to do. Those two are big projects, or what's on my plate at the moment, and I'm really, really excited because I wanted. My goal was to by January start pushing out some new art into the world and new stories.
You do have a lot
Right.
going on, and that sounds all amazing. I was aware of most of that. You said something a minute ago that I kind of want to backtrack to. You talked about divorce and a time period in your life where you weren't as creative. And we all know as creatives that life can get in the way sometimes. So when life tries to get in the way, I mean, yeah, when life tries to get in the way, you've been doing this for a long time. How have you learned to navigate that in a way that that life doesn't really like stall you?
Well, in a way, it did, to be honest. I mean, I was married for 5 years, um, and divorced, and really kind of trying to build a business for another 5 years before I could really get back into that artistic version of myself that I saw myself as before. And just bear in mind that I didn't go to college because I wanted to be an artist. It was 1994. I want to be an artist. So then I got married, then I had children. So that entire thing went out the window. But I still did keep in touch in some way. I used to airbrush. I started airbrushing different things. I would airbrush t-shirts, and that was a way to stay in touch. I started doing Photoshop, and that's what allowed me to get into internet marketing. So that allowed me to be creative. So there is gaps and moments where life is too real and life is just coming too hard. I had 4 children. At one point, I had 2 stepchildren and my daughters and my wife, of course, that I was supporting. So having time to be creative was really was in short inventory. But I did still keep in touch and dabbled in it, but nothing like I do now. I feel like at times you really, for me, I've learned that you have to be okay with stopping and going and not beating yourself up as much, like, oh, I haven't done my art, and just pacing yourself and looking at your situation. Because if you live long enough, for me, this is something I've really come to believe. If you live long enough, which is kind of funny to say, but if you live long enough, you can keep doing that. And I've done that over and over in various different aspects of my life, dancing as well as an artistic expression that I love, that every time you come back, you're a little better, you're a little better, you're a little better. And but I'm pushing 50. So now I've got 4 or 5 different core skills that have allowed me, that I've been able to kind of go back and forth on over the years to really get competent or really excellent at. But at times it will punch you in the face and you will be knocked out for a while.
Well, and you've got something coming up. I mean, you're engaged currently, so there's a wedding on the horizon, and I know that you guys have already started to plan more
Mhm.
family. So
Yes.
there's going to be more children involved. And okay, you have all these experiences. When all that kicks in and life is starting to like throw obstacles
Yeah.
in the way of your creative,
Yeah.
part of your being, knowing what you know and having all those past experiences, how will you navigate this time to not, I mean, it's a lot to have a new wife to go through the whole wedding thing again, and
Mhm.
because you're not planning something small, I don't think. It's a destination wedding, if I
Small-ish
understand.
ish.
And then family,
Yes.
and family, by the time those are born, you'll be probably in your early 50s. So it
Whoop, whoop.
probably won't be quite as easy as it was 20 years, 25 years ago when the first ones came along. You were young and really energetic. Not that you're not young and energetic
Speak for
now, but
yourself, damn it.
so speak for yourself. Yeah, I love that. So how do you think, hypothetically, you will navigate that when that all comes down based on all this wonderful experience?
Fantastic question. It's actually something I have thought about, because I don't ever want to let it go again. I don't ever want to let it go to the wayside. Um, well, for one, it's going to be a part of our culture here in the home. There's some creative something here. There's at least 6 or 7 right now I can reach out and do right now. But in terms of when the child comes, when I'm married and when that craziness starts, is I'm actually going to, well, number one is my partner is actually fully invested and supports this endeavor. She understands how important it is to me. So that already is going to be 80% of the work for me in terms of actually doing it. Because she supports it, she actually encourages me to sit down and record videos. She lets me sketch and not ask me what the hell I'm doing, what's wrong with you, to go get a job or do anything. Like, go make money, damn it. I don't have that. Um, so
Yeah, you
I
you
guess,
hit pay dirt when you met her, my
well,
friend. She's
I'm,
amazing.
last week, she actually told me, sit down and record your podcast. You said you were going to do it today. Sit down. Like, yes, ma'am. That didn't exist before. So I think even a better answer is that I've built my life already and my lifestyle to be able to do that. I have all the tools around me. I have the room. I have a partner. So being able to, and I have a business that allows me to sit and record and do different things in the gaps in a way that I couldn't before. I had to work a full-time job. I worked 10 or 12-hour days, 6 days a week, worked in the grocery business. So coming home and then being a father to forge, like, there just wasn't enough time in the day. Now I don't have to work as hard physically to make money. I can make in excess now to allow myself the time. So as long as I continue to do that and just maintain a daily practice of some sort, and what's what I'm doing now is sketching or doing something every single day, even if it's just circles and squares and perspective, just to keep the brain and my hand flowing.
Yeah, it sounds like you've done a lot of things to try to build those resources to have something in the banks of different sorts.
Yes, absolutely. And it's something that I'm incredibly proud of, that now I know that I can do that. And the other part is I don't have to do this to make money. So
Mhm.
this like removing that stress of trying to make my art pay the bills. I do it because it truly makes me happy. And a lot of the things that I'm sketching are based off of things that are happening in my day. Like something fires off a memory, or in that moment something happens. So like I can't wait to see those moments come to life. Like, oh my God, kid just walked, which reminded me of this, and I want to tell this story, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah, I hear a really stark contrast. You talked about those two dark cycles, 5 years, 5 years of marriage, 5 years of following the divorce, and just the contrast with how you knew all of the things that would not feed you, not build you up, that tore you down, and it sounds like you've done a whole lot to build all the things that will nurture you and sustain you for the long haul.
Absolutely. I think without that, then you do, when those obstacles come, it becomes even more difficult to get yourself back up or to overcome it. It's step over the obstacle, whatever you got to do with that obstacle. When you don't have a partner that's supporting this endeavor, when you don't have a lifestyle that's paying, like if I have to go get a second job because now I have a kid, now forget about it, right? So getting back to his question of how will I overcome it, I'm like, it's going to be built into my entire way of being and my lifestyle and my partner, everything. And my child will be a little artist as my girls are. They are also creatives.
Well,
That's
and
awesome.
it's worth calling out too that what you do that makes money, the business, is also very creative.
Yes, yes, it is, because I have to, yeah, thank you for that. And I have to think of creative ways to market my clients. I have to edit their videos. I have to figure out how to position them. I have to figure out how to promote and market behind it, put marketing behind it, who to target, how to figure out who those individuals are. So that's a great point, and something I didn't realize, even all of it is tied together into my, when I went to high school, I studied commercial art, which essentially now I've concluded is graphic design, commercial art. And even then, I was already in a space where I'm blending business and art to create a story to help my clients, pick up clients, pick up business.
So,
Fantastic thing.
so, so we know how you just tell from the way you talk about it that the creativity that's not financially tied feeds your soul. Does the part that is the creative part that is the business, does it also feed your soul?
Yes, it actually also gives me reps. It feeds my soul and it feeds my belly, and it gives me the reps to actually practice and try doing some things that I may have not done with myself for myself. Um, and I enjoy it. I enjoy helping the people that I work with. I don't have hundreds of clients. I have right now, I think maybe five, and they're good human beings that are doing good work in the community. So working for them actually makes me feel even better. And on top of that, they compensate me well because I'm making the money.
Beautiful. Dwight, what you got?
Well, I want to kind of pull on a thread about how creativity informed your parenthood, but I also kind of heard how you learned a lot of what it was that you didn't want to show for your daughters. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Which one would you like me to speak on first? You said two.
Well, let's talk about the creativity.
As it relates to my parenting.
Yes.
Okay. Um, I'm an artist, and
Uh-huh.
I fancy myself an artist since I can remember. And as I've done some more digging, I've realized that I literally have, it's been my only way of expressing myself uh, early on in my childhood before I had any friends, because I felt I was incredibly lonely. So art was my way to do things, even if it was drawing stick figures. reading letters, trying to duplicate the letters. Lettering is another passion of mine. I really love lettering. Um, my and friends would always ask me, like, "Oh, you're an artist. Your parents artists?" No, no one in my family is an artist. I am the only artist because it was my outlet, and I derived so much pleasure out of it and just fun. It allowed me to escape the world. So when I became a parent, it became something that I wanted to ingrain in them early on. Like they're both artists in their own unique ways. They're artists with the spoken word. They're artists with the written, like whether it be personal, whether it be business. They're artists in conversation. They are great painters, and I wanted them to have that because ultimately life is a creative endeavor. Whether we recognize it or not, we're painting in our canvases every single day. Every conversation we have, everything we do, we can do it artistically, or we can do the boring, mundane thing. And I also realized that a lot of a lot of art is essentially a lot of moment by moment problem solving. You're trying to figure out how to tell a story, how to frame it. How do I, oh wait, that didn't work. That paint is running here. It's watercolor. Crap, what do I do now? And how do I make sure? So it's essentially problem solving. And I wanted to include that in the parenting, and it just is fun. What's the best way to teach a child is to always include fun in it. And if we have paper, we have paint, we have crayons, we charcoal. I use charcoal a lot in teaching my kids early on, and how, as an example, when I was teaching my younger one, her numbers, her colors, and her shapes, I'm like, oh, I know what I'll do. Grab some charcoal. I was living in my parents' house because was broke as hell, and we were out in the garage on the driveway. Used charcoal, and I did like an obstacle course. She jumped from one shape. Well, I did shapes, did different colors, and each color, each shape also had a number. So my kid would physically jump into each shape, and she would say the shape, the color, and the number, because she had to take the whole body. She hurt herself. She felt like it was all this entire, all the senses to actually learn, and it was fun.
Yeah.
So ongoing throughout is something that I've continued to push. They've done spoken word. For me, it was very special that they learned how to do that because I loved it, but it later became really powerful because they became really good at public speaking. They're great conversationalists. They are really good at sharing their emotions because I feel a lot of the problems that we have are because we're unable to share our emotions. We can't be vulnerable. Well, that spoken word, man, it teaches you some shit. It teaches you that you can be, and it also teaches you that your peers around you have been through some shit. So you need to appreciate your life. So artistry, artistic endeavors have been something that I've tried to weave into almost every aspect of my parenting because I just felt like it was the right thing to do, and it worked for me. So maybe it'll work for them.
I
That's
have a
beautiful.
story I want to share.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
So
I think I
the
know which one this
girls
is.
must have been under 10, you know.
Yes.
I met them when they were 6 and 7. They were still under 10. And TV reached out to me one day and he said, my oldest daughter, it was a couple of days later, is in a spoken word performance. And he said, I have been called out of town, something business related, or I don't remember what that was, but you were called out of town and you were heartbroken that you couldn't be there.
Was
And he asked me to step in. Would you represent me? Would you go? Because I knew the girls. Would you go and
they
would
loved you.
you watch her spoken word? Would you video it for me so I can see, you know? And so he didn't mention this to the ex-wife. And I
I'll try not
show
to
up
talk
for
to her.
spoken word. And when I walk in the door, the girls see me, they scream, they run across the room, they jump on me like a jungle gym, and they're hugging all over me. And they carry me back over, you know, and introduce me, but they just introduce me as this, you know, my name. You know, they don't say anything. They just say, you know, this is Maddox. And so I'm sitting there and she's giving me the eye up and down, you know, and I watched the performance with Faye, and it was
Yes.
wonderful. The spoken word performance. I videotaped it, and a couple of days later, you know, we're having TV and I are having coffee or lunch together. I don't remember. I'm sharing the video with him, and I
I
said, you
think
know,
you actually texted me, by the way. You texted
I,
me because
I
I
did
checked in on you,
text
like,
you.
how was it? And you're like, continue.
Oh,
I'll
yes, it
listen.
was a text. You're right. I
Yes.
texted him afterwards. I said, I met your ex-wife. And he goes, oh, yeah, yeah. And I said, she wanted to know who I was. And I told her I was your lover.
You would.
You did what?
He believed me for a
Of
moment. I
course.
did not
That's
do
your
that,
type
but
of
he
humor. Why
believed
would I
me
not
for a
believe it?
moment. And it was really very funny at the time. But I have loved that story. And it was, it was such an honor when you asked me to represent you and be there with your girls because I love your girls and they're like, y'all are all family to me.
Same. Yeah, we feel the same about you.
I've been to their graduation stuff and I've been to all the important stuff, you know. Certainly been to the yeah, the important stuff and will continue to be at the important stuff. Y'all are
you're in the inner
family.
circle. Yes, you're in the inner circle of our family as well. So you're usually considered or thought of when it's like, who's on the list? Who do you need to invite? Max is on the list. And now Dwight, you're on the list
Yeah,
too.
Oh, thank you.
it's been an amazing journey. But yes, you put them in so many things to give them such a well-rounded experience and let them pick and choose. You never forced them to do anything. You just expose them to things and let them do what they were drawn to do, which is, God, every parent needs to hear that. Don't force your children to do shit they don't want to do.
Yeah, if they don't feel it, they 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 there's been things, even the poetry, for example, they loved it, they enjoyed it, but we were early on, we were trying to build them up so they can be on the team and compete. And then as they got older and old enough to actually compete, because they were too young to even be a part of it, but they allowed us to be there. They're like, we don't want to compete. I'm like, okay, cool. No worries. We just show up and it's a social activity and you flex those muscles and you write. And that's all we'll do. I'm not going to force you to do anything that you're not comfortable with or don't even want to do. Just,
You are so smart.
Yeah, that's an
It's,
amazing gift for a child.
I mean, truly, I'm going to plug you again. If you're listening to this and you're a parent, you need to listen to this dude's podcast because he's got it going.
I try. It's, what's hard though? I'll tell you, it's because now they're older and like, oh crap, they're gone. Now they don't necessarily have to listen to me. And it's trusting that you've done enough to set them up. Um, as they move along and run their path or run their own timeline. And even if I think I know better, it's like I can't interfere. I have to let them be. And that's probably the biggest test for me now as I've grown older is trusting that I've done the work, and if they need help, they'll come and reach out. But the playing field has been set for them, and they have enough built in that I think they will navigate it well, make their mistakes, and get themselves up.
What you're talking about talking about right now is one of the things that I feel is one of the biggest thing where parents drop the ball. The child comes to an age of maturity, 18, they're now considered an adult. And while you will always be their parent, at that time, the time they leave your house and move out into the world, whether it's to go to college or whatever, the time they leave your abode, your parenting role should stop. You will always be their parent, but the role of parenting them should stop. If it doesn't, now you're just pushing them away.
I believe I'm more of a mentor now, more of just an advisor at best. And yeah, because they're going to be insulted if I keep showing up like, what you did there. I taught you better than that, young lady. That violates our code of ethics. Or, we don't do that around here. What's the neighborhood going to think? What's the church going to think? I have to let them be and consult and counsel as needed, but without the parenting stick. Because
When
otherwise
asked
you're
for,
just,
right?
yes, and ideally when it's asked for.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll be times I'm sure I will chime in on like, hey, we need to talk. I am still around and let's share something. But the ongoing daily or consistent belligerent talk is you have to. And that's probably the biggest lesson for me now is allowing them to make the mistakes. Is a lot of things you don't learn, even if they know better, you don't know till you actually have been through it. Like, oh crap, that's what dad was talking about.
Yeah, we have to experience consequences,
Yeah.
you know? Dwight, did you have a second question?
He did have two. What was the
I
second one?
did have two.
Yes.
Well, I kind of picked up that a lot of your parenting style was drawn from things that you wanted to do better for
Mm,
your girls.
mhm.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yes, yes. My parents, I actually put this timeline together. My parents were born in the 40s in Mexico, raised by parents who were born in the tens, 1910, 1915, during the Mexican Revolutionary War.
Hmm.
So they're children of people of parents that went through the war. So they had ways of doing things and beliefs on parenting or not showing up, and we were poor. So put all that together, my childhood was really rough, as a lot of kids are at that age, right? Um, no I love yous, no hugs, no show of compassion. So a lot of things that I got in my parenting came from what I really needed. Um, just support, love, ongoing conversations. I have no conversations with my parents. I really don't even know who they are to a large extent. I don't know their stories, their struggles. Obviously, I know the struggle because we went through it, but anything in their childhood. So, ongoing relationship with them, explaining myself, like, hey, like I don't believe in just telling them what to do without the understanding and the thinking behind it. Just because I'm the dad is not a good excuse for me. It's not a good justification because they're not going to learn what actually I want them to learn. Slapping, I didn't discipline them, physically discipline them because my thought, I figured it'd be a social experiment with my kids is you beat your cattle, you beat whatever, but beating a child to me is like they're just little bitty little humans. What do they know? They don't even know language. Beating them isn't going to necessarily make them to fear you, and they might eventually obey you, but I think that they would learn. So stayed away from that. And a lot of the stuff that I do comes from what I didn't think actually served, while at the same time trying to instill grit in them and the ability to fight for themselves, speak for themselves, stand up for themselves and others. So it's trying to marry those things that were good that my parents did were able to serve for me, but then the things that I felt like were just making it worse and make me hate them. There was a period of time where I hated my parents.
Oh.
And it's really tough to say that, but I did because I was a kid and I'm like, don't understand why you're beating me. And this recent realization is, and the reason I think communication is so important to me. Like communication is one of the biggest things in my, besides art, but it's the art of communication and conversation and persuasion and all that marketing. The reason I think it's been so important to me is because I think I got my ass beat a lot because I did things incorrectly that I was asked to do, but it was because it wasn't told to me in a proper way. My parents'
Mhm.
communication skills and like it's vague at best. And you hear parents are like, we'll leave in a little bit, or you can just have a little bit, or you're doing it wrong. Well, what's wrong? Show me right. What is right? Please, somebody. So all that you put that together and like I I try to pull from that while trying to bring the good from what was there to be able to parent them in a way that I think will make them better children and humans, but just allow them to thrive in modern world.
That's beautiful. Now, did you have a chance for your girls to have a relationship with their grandparents?
They do. They live in Dallas, so yes. However, it's difficult because my parents are disabled and they're tough to talk to. The environment that they're living is tough. Everything about it is tough, but they do have a relationship. They have a loving connection with them, and they appreciate them for who they are. I've tried to make sure that they know that they're still my parents, and I still love them. So every time we come over, they're fantastic with them. They try to give them money. So it's a connected one, but it's a thin connection, unfortunately. And also, my parents don't speak English and my kids don't speak Spanish. So, but they understand it well, but they're unable to have those really deep conversations. But to be fair, my parents aren't going to open up. It's just fine. They can hug on them and low on them in those brief moments.
Yeah.
I want to call out that, what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, is you knew what you got as a child. And that was all you had to draw from. That was your role models. That was all you had to draw from.
Mm.
And so just the act of choosing to raise your daughters differently was the ultimate form of creativity. I mean, all you had to go on was over here, but where you wanted to take them was over here. So you had to create an entire new way of being, a new
Yeah.
environment,
Yes.
a new way of communicating. I mean, geez, if that's not the ultimate communication, I mean, the ultimate creativity, what is?
And I think in a manner, speaking of, and thank you for setting that up, I wanted to remix, grab ingredients from what was given to me and create some masterpieces. I wanted to create a life that honored what I was given, but acknowledged that there was ways to improve it. And in every aspect I could, I tried, you name it, I really did. And it was a creative endeavor for sure. It took years of reinventing myself because I knew that there has to be a better way to do things. And that's a kind of a thing I say a lot, is like there has to be a better way. As a child, I think I uttered those words a lot. Tiene que haber una mejor manera, a better way to actually live, to be, to create, to share, to talk, to argue, to disagree. There has to be a better way. And it just, an improv really hammered this across to me. At any given moment, when anything happens in a scene in improv, most people, and this is life as well, we will do what we first think about, and it's boring, it's mundane, it's predictable. But improv taught me that any given moment, you have thousands of things that you can say, thousands of things that ways to respond and create a more engaging conversation or a better resulting conversation. So yes, it became an artistic endeavor because I needed to create a better life.
And it sounds like you've created a better life on so many different levels. You know, as you just shared earlier about how it was that you didn't go off to pursue formal schooling because you wanted to be an artist, and yet throughout our conversation, you made all of these references that would be in the domain of anyone that was educated in the classics of arts and letters. I mean, honestly, like you value communication in all its forms. You've taken your daughters to at one point you were grooming them to compete in spoken word, and like there's really a true love of what it is to communicate, and it's how you earn your living.
Yes, absolutely. Correct.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, go ahead.
I just already lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna need you to go next.
Oh, so you've talked about growing up, your childhood, your parents, uh, and the challenges of that.
Mhm.
You've talked about the divorce, you mentioned briefly the corporate job before becoming creative, the 5 years there, that challenge. Are there any other significant challenges when it comes to your creative life that you have had to overcome that you would like to share?
Other creative challenges. I mean, that's about it, honestly, because they were pretty big ones and they spanned decades of my life.
I just wanted to make sure we covered it.
No, I mean, early on it was access. I grew up I mean, I was born in 75, I graduated in the 90s. So there was limited access to knowledge and information back then.
Hmm.
I was able to find library. For me, one of the biggest discoveries was the library, to find books that allowed me to learn anatomy and perspective and color. Like, so I was self-teaching myself, self-taught myself in that manner. So the obstacle was I wanted to be an artist, but where else do I learn? And the story I tell around that is I, I was an immigrant kid. I was born in Mexico, and I didn't know what a library was. Somebody, I think, told me in school. I was able to convince my father to take me because he didn't like taking me anywhere, but he took me. And then when I get there, they share with me that, I ask how many books can I check out because there is a library at the school. They're like, oh, you can check as many as you want. What? Are you kidding me? I'm like, whoa. I literally must have taken 12 books home, and most of them were on drawing or illustration or something of that form. Um, and then it made me so happy, and it taught me, that was one of the things that I learned during that phase of my life, is if I have a question, there's probably a book on it, so I'm gonna go get that book. I did magic. I did all types of crazy things, and a lot of it was to try to perform, even, or to get attention or tell a story, right? But for me, that was the challenge at the moment. Now, my biggest challenge might be too much information, too much access, too many teachers, too many courses, and I have too many books to read. And it's finding time or focusing on just one aspect. And right now, that's what I'm doing, trying to focus so that way I don't, because if I'm really easily distracted, I want to do everything. I think it's my curse. I want to do everything. I want to fly a drone. I want to do videos. I want to paint. I want to do Maddox. You did painting. I want to do some oil painting. That's probably my biggest obstacle now, is focus. Now that I got back around to it, focusing on one thing and really pushing it out.
Early in our
Even
conversation, you said, I didn't go to college because
Right.
I wanted to be an artist.
Yes.
And, I did 1 year of college and it was not my thing. And I think that in this society, we put so much emphasis and power on a degree. And I think we're short sighted for that because, you are a lifelong learner, as I'm a lifelong learner.
You should see my tabs
And
on my browser right now.
and we may not
it's
have
crazy.
that diploma, that piece of paper that says we went through 4 years of college and
Yes.
have a degree, but you and I are both very well educated. In fact, in many ways, far more well educated than somebody that's got that 4 year degree and piece of paper.
Mhm.
It's just worth calling out. I just, for those other people who need to hear, you know, you are not less than because you did not get a college degree, not
I'll tell you a
even
story.
remotely.
I'll tell you a story on that. So I'm obviously, I believe that to be true, and I agree with it. And there is a time and a place for it. So I supported my kids in their own path, with education. So that my oldest did not go to college. She started a business. She went to work for a marketing agency, and now she has a business. She told me, her senior year, I don't want to go to college. I've decided that it's not for me. School is not for me. Formal education is not for me. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Look at me. Like, who am I to talk? Especially now with the availability for knowledge that's out there. I said, but
It's amazing that she had that kind of clarity at that age and was able to speak her voice and her truth.
yes,
But that's because you raised her the way you did.
that's part of the education, and even in the poetry circuit, that's one of the things I say. I have a voice. I have a say, and I have an opinion. But then flip that to my other kid. She's in college. Well, she's home right now for summer break, holidays. But she went to college. She came to me. She's an academic. So, and she wants to be a mathematician or something. It's like crazy out there. I'm like, okay, let's do that. Let's rock and roll. There's a time and a place, and it's not for everyone. And for her, it made perfect sense. So I also support it. And I'm also paying for that. And I'm making sure that she knows that she's taken care of so she can pursue whatever she's going to pursue down the line. I've said to her, I'll be honest, who knows how it works out, but you meet enough people who have gone to college and they're not doing anything remotely related to their degree.
Yep.
And it's not
Facts.
to poo-poo on anyone, but it is what it is. But for me, like, if that works out, I'm fine with it because I've given her the opportunity to go out, to grow her network, to learn, to be, and whatever happens, I know she's going to be a much better person because she did go. It fit her personality type, and I'm not worried about it. It'll work itself out.
I want to grab on to something that you talked about earlier.
Mhm.
You were kind of setting the stage for all the things that you have on the horizon for the coming year
Mhm.
and excited about a lot of projects.
Mhm.
And to me, it kind of spoke to how you could recognize that there was growth at different points. So could you look back and call out any milestone works that you can look back on to see your journey? Anything that maybe we could throw some links to that people could see?
Milestone, like how I've maybe crossed a threshold in skill, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah, just like different any artistic work that
Mhm.
stands out in your memory, anything that maybe was something that you learned a lot from, or maybe it was in uh, a medium that you mastered and moved on from.
Or something
Ah,
that you're just
okay.
particularly proud of.
Yeah.
I have a couple, maybe three. One is when I started this artistic journey of really making it more of a focus was like a few years ago. And one of my pieces took off on Twitter. And it took off so well that some other guy who's an artist on Twitter reproduced it in his style, and it took off for him. But he gave me credit, and I'm even in his course as like this is the guy who originally did it, but I did it my way. You can grab it, but it went viral. It was a personal story about protecting my daughter's minds. I did everything to take the arrows and protect them and protect their minds, because if I protect their minds, anything's possible. If the mind is not, anyway. So that's the story that took off, and I'm like, whoa. And I had one of the things I try to do with my sketches is maybe quote people, quote authors, and I've been liked and followed by them. So that was a fantastic feeling of confirmation of my skills. Another endeavor, a milestone for me, and I just wrapped it up. My involvement with this was building a dance community. We haven't even talked about dance. So I've been dancing, and it's a passion. It's something that I love doing. And when I was young, I couldn't do it because my dad said it was gay. So I was forbidden from dancing. As I got older, after my divorce, like, I'm gonna learn how to dance because, and I did. And then a few years later, for some reason, I decided to start a community because we needed to build a community. Maddox has been to one of my has attended an event before, Kizomba specifically. So I created an event called Monday Night Kizomba 5 years ago or so. And through that event, created a community of dancers that in Dallas, and Dallas DFW became known as the Mecca for Kizomba or Big Kiz. We have
Wow.
so many people that show up. We have such great dancers. It was large numbers of people. So that felt fantastic. And I
How
had to
many
wrap
people
it.
did you get up to? Dwight, I'm
Oh,
sorry, TV.
I've got up to over 100 at an event at a little bar, basically.
But didn't you also have something that was like a Facebook group or something where people would
Oh, in
talk
terms of no,
about?
it's an event. No, it's page, a Facebook fan page or business page. So I probably got like 25,000 people that like the page or following the page. Probably more than
25,000
that.
people that are following you for
Yes,
Kizomba
yes,
dancing.
yes.
Wow.
So, but to just add a cherry to that, I built the community. I did invest in that because it had given me so much. It had given me some of my best friends came from the dance community. Carla, I met there. She walked in my door at my event. So that in itself, I guess that could be another one. So she walked in my door, and now she's my life partner and my future mother and my children. Um, and all my best friends, and I learned how to walk in and dance in my own skin, be comfortable in my skin. So I felt compelled to do this and I invested a lot of money and time into it. Um, so I'm grateful for that. But then to know that there are people who met at my event and have now since then as well been married makes me feel good. Like I help bring people together. And like I said, I just walked away from it. I literally 100% walked away from it last month and removed myself from it and allowed them to continue to develop it. But that was one of those moments as well that made me feel like, oh shit, I did that.
Well, and
That's beautiful.
you've created the perfect segue for where I want to go next, and that is
I'm awesome.
community. You know,
Yes.
how, how, how has community played a role in your creative life?
Specifically as it relates to that, it was critical. I don't know if I become the man I am without community, especially in the dance space, because you dance with another. It's a partner dance. But within community, you have friends that hold you accountable. Are you coming tonight? Are you going to class? How's your Saida going? How's your move going? Or it just becomes a place where we can all participate and grow together. And I knew that if I build that community, that it would feed my soul, and it did. And it's essential as far as the community in my dance is concerned. Artistically, in my other spaces, I primarily have stayed alone. Um, and I had trouble connecting with people in those spaces because it's just hard. Everybody's an artist. But I recently really tried to join communities that are doing some of the things that I'm doing, to hold me accountable, to give me feedback, give me notes on my work, as because we're all doing the same type of stuff. And I'm really enjoying it in a way that I didn't realize. You have to remember also, I grew up in the 90s, and I didn't have internet, and there was no social media, there was no communities. So everything I was always buried in my room working on something. So it was always kind of like this. It was this person. But now I know that you need people around you. I do my best work, even work, if I'm in the coffee shop and I hear people rummaging around. For some reason, I'm more productive. But community is an essential part of, I think, any group, any artistic endeavor, if you really want to grow. Because I think even the old artists are known for having groups of people that were right beside them creating other masterpieces.
You know, at some point, I don't remember, this was maybe 2011, I think. No, 12. It was because it was after, it was early 2013 because my father died at the end of 2012. And I remember I said for many years, one of these days, I want to take painting lessons. And when the
Hmm.
day my father died, it was like, ooh, you know, that slap of mortality in the face. You're not going to live forever. And I thought, one of these days is today.
And
And
yeah.
I signed up for a painting class, and I gifted you
Oh my
with
God.
the painting class, and we painted together in a group.
Can
There
I
was all these other people painting. It was a group thing.
can I tell you something? Can I tell a story about that?
Absolutely.
So he says, "Hey, TV, what are you doing on this day?" I'm like, "I'm busy." Well, what about this day? Why are you asking? I'm available. What's up? He's like, don't don't worry about it. Just be ready. Meet me or at this. And he eventually gave me an address. I said, okay. Oh no, I went to your place, and then from your place you drove me. And then you said to me, like, are you scared I'm gonna murder you? I'm like, a little. Where the
Are
hell
you
are we
scared I'm
going?
going to take you to a gay bar?
No, you didn't say that. I'm sure they're fun. But we pull up into this what is it, old factory or warehousey area. I'm like, what the? Yeah, you're really scared, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, I am. We eventually walk in. I'm like, we make our way around, like, oh crap, what's happening? There's paintings here. Surprise! It might have been my birthday, like a birthday gift or something.
I
Uh,
think it
because
was
it was like a 3-pack. I want to say it was like 2 or 3 classes that we did together. I forget how it was,
or
but you gave
three
me.
months maybe.
No, it wasn't months. Maybe that's man. Getting old is sucks because you forget things. But
We
anyways,
painted side by side
we
for
should be able to
a
remember this between
while.
the two of us, weren't?
Yeah.
But we did. That's right. It has to be weekly at least because there are three or
It
four
was weekly.
paintings hanging
I,
right now. So, but he gifted me those, and you're right. Like I remember looking around, like this is so cool.
Hmm.
I want to do this forever. And I cried. You made me cry that day because I'm like, nobody's ever given me something like that. It was one of those gifts that really hit home. And damn, talk about bringing it home to the art, the artistic creativity component, and community. Yeah, it was so cool because it was easily half a dozen to a dozen people in the room. My little kid was out. My little TV, baby TV was out.
you know, it spoiled me. That was my first foray into painting. And I painted in the class for several months, and then I don't know, they stopped holding the class. They lost the space. I don't remember exactly what happened. And I tried to paint solo, and I never could get into it. I painted a little bit solo, but
Mm.
I didn't enjoy it at all. It was,
Wow.
I mean, I think that I've had so many solo things in my life. I just came to this point where I didn't want to do shit alone anymore. Some things, You know, I mean, I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I charge my battery by being by myself. But I did photography for years, and that was solo. I've done all kinds of things that were solo. I wanted something that was group, and I would join a painting class again if I could find one where I could paint with fun people.
You know, you make a great point. I find that to be true for myself and a lot of, and I just accept it. I can't do yoga by myself. I have to go to a yoga
To a
studio,
class.
and they're going to say the exact same poses every single time, but I have to be in a room full of people to be able to do it. I can't go. I try to go to the gym and work out by myself, and I do sometimes, but I cannot do it alone. I need, even if it's just rubbing elbows with them in the room, and they're also doing the same work. It makes me feel, I don't know, more. The word I keep coming back to is accountable. I am in the room with you.
It is accountability. You know, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half ago, I said to Dwight, would you? I've always been a gym goer, but I mean, my whole life I've been an exercise person. I'm not a gym rat by any means, but
You
I
have fine
exercise.
ass.
I walk every morning. But there was a point where it was sporadic, and I
Right.
said, "Would you hold me accountable?" I
Mm.
said, "Dwight, can we go to the gym together? Can we set aside 2 mornings a week where we go to the gym together, and we just do it without fail, unless we're sick, you know?" And
And
man,
I'm your accountability buddy at the gym.
you are my
Did you say
accountability
accountability,
buddy.
buddy?
And he
That
keeps me
was
on
funny.
because there are times when, it's like really cold outside or it's
Oh God.
raining. I don't
Yeah.
want to go to the gym. And we go anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm in better shape for it. I,
Yeah.
I won't
100%.
tell you that I love going to the gym. I don't.
Well, I'm glad my obsessive tendencies are good for something.
They
Oh,
are
absolutely.
good for something.
Yeah. Everything in
You,
moderation, bro.
you know, back to the group thing at one
Yes.
point, and I don't remember whether you came to this or not. At one point, I rented a space and hosted a big party. And I invited probably, I hope there must have been 20 people that showed up for that. Everybody brought wine. And I said, all the paint and all the brushes and everything are supplied. You got to bring your own canvas. And everybody showed up with a canvas and we stuck them up on the wall and we painted. And that painting behind Dwight right now on the wall there is the painting I painted that night. And by far my best work of art,
Mm,
you know?
wow.
And
No, I
I
didn't
painted
go.
that
Yo, I didn't get
painting
that
in
invitation.
45 minutes flat. You got an invitation. You just
I'm,
don't remember and
I'm
you
fucking
didn't
with you. I'm fucking
come.
with you. I knew you were gonna call me out. I sent you one, you dork.
But yeah, the energy in that room that night
Uh,
enabled me to produce something that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to produce. And I was surrounded by people that loved me, and we were
mm,
just having a really, really good time.
yeah.
And it was
As
amazing.
as long as you keep it fun, if you maintain, like, once it becomes work, I think that's the threshold, right? So
Yep.
for me, the reason I had to walk away from the dance community, because in the marketing and trying to grow that, is it became too much work and less passion and love. And I had to walk away. So to your point, it's like it has to be there. You can't, once I think you tried, you had a bunch of crap. You went all in on it, right? On painting. But once you became like a chore, I suppose, it's probably when it became less fun. Now creativity becomes a challenge.
Yes. I have retained all of my tools and all of the paint and mediums, but I gave away, well, no, I sold them, but I might as well
I
give
You
them
know.
sold them
away.
really cheap.
I
You
sold
told me. Damn it, you didn't tell
20
me.
huge gallery wrapped canvases. I
Damn,
mean, I can't even
you had a
want to
lot.
tell you how much I invested in 20 gallery wrapped,
You should have seen
large
his
gallery
his
wrapped.
studio, his hair salon studio. You'd walk in like frames everywhere. Like, Jesus, this dude is
Yes,
crazy.
for a period of time, I would cut hair on one side of the room and paint on the other side
Yes.
to
Okay.
keep my creativity going. Yep. Yep. But that wasn't fun either because the only times I got to paint was when there was nobody in there. It was just
Mm,
me.
no fun, no community. I think there's a theme here.
There is a theme, community,
What do you think?
I think that we undervalue it. If that is the one message that I want to drive home with everything we're doing is we as creatives have a tendency to undervalue the power of community.
Mhm. It's true. We feel like we should all be in our dungeon creating our masterpieces. I think of is it Tolkien? Tolkien, J.R. Tolkien, and I forget the other writers, but there was a group of them that created these masterpieces. But they literally were buddies, talking and collaborating or checking out each other's work. Like it was a community of those writers, and they've created works that are still lived. I think one of them is Narnia. You're a big fan of
C.S.
Narnia, right?
Lewis.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, I'm
C.S.
a
Lewis. They were
huge fan
buddies.
of Narnia.
Yeah, I was trying to remember that, but they were a little community as well of writers that were working together. And even if just being by each other and talking shit to each other like that, there's value in that.
Yes, there is.
There is.
Immense value. Well, it's come a time where we need to start wrapping it up. We've gone a little bit longer than we tend to, but this was so rich and so fabulous. And I did
Sorry.
learn some things about you that I didn't know. We're gonna pull a hat out of our, you know what, not a hat.
I don't like that metaphor. It's really disgusting.
It's really
It is
distressing.
disturbing.
It's very disturbing because I have to imagine it, and I don't like imagining.
A hat out of it, yeah. I didn't say it right, but Dwight's got some rapid fire questions for
God.
you with rapid fire answers.
Yeah.
Or rapid fire answers.
Yeah. So, first rapid fire question: where do you feel most inspired?
Where do you feel most inspired? This is going to sound really freaky, but in the bedroom with my partner.
Okay.
Yes, I know, but it doesn't happen while freakiness is going on. Just in her arms, and we're sitting, we're talking, we're maybe talking about the movie we just watched or something that just happened in our day, and things come. It's peaceful. It is the most peaceful. That is my heaven in there.
That's
Oh
beautiful.
my God, I'm so glad you clarified that.
No, and not while things are going on. I just cuddled.
That's great. What's one way you give back to your creative community?
Well, like what I used to do was I used to host this event for 5 years to help them connect and dance and grow. I don't know what I do so much now that I could specifically say that I give to the community, other than create and show them that what's possible.
Well, haven't you also been a pretty heavy hitter for a number of years in a business networking group?
I still am, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point. I still and I run ads even for them to help promote them and growing it. That is something that I've done. Is I like creating communities, but I like to be in the back end. So I run ads and create a video for them to help promote the group and bring more people together. That's actually, community is a very big deal for me. I forgot about that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Go.
I'm
You
still
just
involved
heard
in
it
it.
from the master himself. Community is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a memory that makes you smile?
Ooh. Give me a second. A memory that makes me the one that comes to mind is anytime I pick up my daughters from their mother's house, especially when they're younger. And my grandson's starting to do it when he comes here because I have a long hallway. But they would book it. It would be in a driveway. And they would book it to me. And they're running. I grab it. I chuck them up in the air and I put them down. And the other one's coming. I got to put them down because the other one's coming. And she books it. Me too. Grab her. Chicken. Those are the most beautiful moments. Just seeing them so excited to see me to start our weekend adventure.
That is so beautiful.
Well, I'm always really excited to see you. Every time I see you, can I run and you
You
throw me
can.
up in the air?
But I might just grab you and chunk you to the side because there's no way I'm picking your butt up. Let me just run to you. We should also call it we have this thing, we don't do it anymore because we're too big. But when they were little, we call it a love blast. So one of us would sit on the couch, usually me on the bed, and one would book it from the other side of the house and I love blast. And then every single time I can't help but bust out laughing hysterically because I'm like, so moments like that.
Love it.
There's video of that too somewhere. I'll have to show that.
Wonderful.
It's crazy. I'm like, I'm gonna get killed. Because when they're 13, 14, 15, like, oh no. When they're little, it's not a big deal.
That is
Well,
great.
Teevee, this has been awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
has been amazing.
I've really enjoyed hearing more of your story than I think I've heard a lot of it through the years, but this was truly a gift to Dwight and I, and to our listeners.
Thank you. I appreciate you mining my life a little bit there. digging
Did we
in.
dig anything out of you that connected any dots for you about your own life?
No, most of this stuff I've been doing a lot of introspection in the last year or so that um I nothing is new. It's the first time I've said some of these things out loud. It's just things that go in my journal, like, oh crap, duh.
Now, how
But
did that feel to say some of those things out loud?
it felt good. Once again, it's like sharing my story. I, I read something somewhere that, and I did a sketch around it. Like it's very human to show and tell. Like it's not just kids. We want to all do it. Like, look, I did this thing. So for me to have put those words and that stories, the stories together, and then share with you, like it felt really good and fulfilling.
The energy you bring is amazing, my friend. I love you with all my heart.
Oh, I love you too. Stop it. You too, Dwight. Love you
Yeah,
guys.
this has been so uplifting. I'm so glad that we got to do this.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.